Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. I am joined by Reese and we are previewing the Spanish Grand Prix. The 7th round, what should have been 8th, but yeah, the 7th round of the Grand Prix season for 2023. And Max Verstappen very much firmly in the lead in the Drivers' Championship, and Red Bull alongside, of course, with the Constructors' Championship as well. So can this be changed? Will we see different things? Mercedes are sporting new upgrades they tested out in Monaco. Now we finally get to see them properly this weekend, and all these other fancy things. Reese, of course, is here with us. Reese, how are you doing, and are you looking forward to the weekend?
I'm doing well, thanks, and yourself, Mark. Yes, really looking forward to this race weekend. It should certainly be quite an interesting one after the Monaco Grand Prix. We have a lot of upgrades coming from some teams. Red Bull are bringing some upgrades. Mercedes will hopefully be getting to the bottom of their new upgrade package and extracting that full potential from it. Whether that will push them further up the grid, we will have to wait and see, but it should certainly be a very exciting Spanish Grand Prix in store.
Indeed, and let's just go to some facts about the Spanish Grand Prix, of course. So the number of times it's been held 63 times in the great city of Barcelona in Catalonia, and it was first held in 1913. I mean, that just tells you the history here. We're literally going back 110 years since the first Grand Prix was held here, which is insane if you think about it. I mean, quite incredible. So the most wins are currently held by Michael Schumacher with 6, and Lewis Hamilton also with 6. The most wins, though, for constructor is Ferrari with 12 wins in total. The circuit length is 4.657 kilometers, which is, for all of those who use miles, weird people, 2.89 miles long. The race length is 307,000 kilometers. What? Not 307,000. 307.2.
Yeah, that might be a bit
307. Long. That would be ridiculous. 307 kilometers for the entire thing, and it's 66 laps in total. Now, of course, the big thing with regards to the Spanish Grand Prix this year, though, is the fact that they have changed the track ever so slightly, finally doing what most fans have asked for and what a lot of people have asked for with regards to changing one of the chicanes.
Yes, one of the final chicanes, well, it is the final chicane on the circuit, has now been changed for this race weekend. The last person to race on this old layout was, who do you think, Mark?
Oh, I can't remember.
Fernando Alonso, the only driver on the grid who has driven the old layout of this Catalonia circuit.
That's quite interesting. So can Alonso use that for his advantage, or at least to hopefully have a little bit of an edge over the rest of the drivers? I doubt very much it's going to make any difference, if anything at all. And in fact, I've actually got a little bit of an article here going and saying that Alonso is not favoured much in Barcelona due to his little bit of a track record here, supposedly, saying that it seems to the Aston Martin strength rather seems to show up more difficult in Barcelona, saying that it's going to be a bit of a difficult track for Aston Martin. So Alonso not necessarily being favoured for this weekend from this article here. So
I don't think you can count him out, though. The race weekend hasn't even started and people are already trying to count out the Aston Martin and Alonso. I mean, we didn't even expect him to be so competitive this year. I think he'll certainly be putting on a good show for us this weekend.
And of course, it is his home Grand Prix. Not just his own, it's Carlos Sainz as well. But nonetheless, the two Spanish drivers will be racing in Barcelona, which is their home country, of course. So the support will be huge. So Aston Martin will basically be having a home crowd, which will be fantastic. Because I think as much as there are so many Ferrari fans in Spain, I think most people will be rooting for that green machine of Fernando Alonso. Yeah, but we should go back to the Spanish Grand Prix in general. And I mean, it's a very nice track. You know, it's a really good track for a lot of drivers. A lot of people do tend to like it. It's quite a difficult track, though.
It's a very traditional track in terms of it has a lot of long straights as well as sweeping corners. I mean, turn 3 is such a long, and such a fast corner. It's really puts your setup to the test. You have to be able to navigate through really tricky and technical sections, but you also have to be able to go through high-speed corners. I mean, it's difficult for the driver and the engineers to set their car up, but once you do get it into that sweet spot, if you get it properly into that sweet spot, it really does award you quite nicely.
And there are quite a few overtaking opportunities around the Spanish Grand Prix, of course, because, I mean, we go on and say, just in the run-up to the first corner, that whole straight is 613 meters long, so it's not too long in terms of, it's from I think that's from the start line. to the first corner. So that's still quite a bit of distance there for drivers to try and get past in the opening lap. And Red Bull seem to have every now and then struggled a little bit. That's the only time they seem to sometimes struggle this season so far. We saw Fernando Alonso make a great dive on Sergio Perez already this season so far. I mean, is that another opportunity for people to maybe try and get ahead of the Red Bull?
I think it should provide a really exciting start of the race, but of course, Red Bull are still really looking to be the favourites, taking 100% of the wins so far this season. I mean, you'd really be stupid to say Red Bull are not going to take the win here again.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see someone else take it for sure, but I think Red Bull are really going to be looking quite strong. They are also, they have also said that they are bringing some upgrades this weekend. I think it was one of the Red Bull team members just saying there that they're taking a bit of a different approach, though, coming here into the Spanish Grand Prix weekend with some upgrades. Just reading an article here saying that the upgrades on the Red Bull are not the only upgrades we're expecting to see this weekend. Aston Martin are also expecting to bring some upgrades, as well as Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, upgrades galore. It's basically what it's sounding like because Mercedes, who haven't seen their full upgrades potential yet, and everybody's pretty much just upgrading over the last 2 weeks.
Yes, I mean, it's certainly better to bring your upgrades here. It's a much more traditional track where you can really correlate your data from early on the year in your testing. So it makes sense to bring a lot of those upgrades here. Whether they will be successful in making your car faster, I mean, Ferrari are really hoping to extract a lot more out of this new upgrade package to put them further up the grid, as well as Aston Martin are hoping to improve their pace by 0.2 of a second per lap. So, I mean, a lot of expectations coming here this weekend on those new upgrades.
Yeah, and I've just got an article open here. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. And it goes and says, with regards to predictions for this weekend, and it does pretty much agree with you. It goes and says, in terms of top speed, and especially with the DRS Open, the Red Bull is on paper unbeatable in Spain. And, would you happen to agree with that? It's just that sentence there. I just saw that. I mean, is it absolutely unbeatable? Is it already a given that Red Bull will win this weekend?
Well, coming into the season, we didn't think Red Bull would be this dominant. And as I said already, they've taken 100% of the win so far this season. They are certainly looking undefeatable at the moment.
Yeah. So we move to the midfield, and it says tension in the midfield. And I just want to read a little bit of this. So it says, while the tension at the front is often lacking, there is currently a lot of competition in the mid and backfield. The differences there are small, and on a good day, for example, a team like Alpine can shine. See Monaco last weekend for that. Between teams like Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, Haas, and Williams, the margins are very small. So for those who look beyond the fight at the front, we can probably see drivers battling it out at the sharp end in Barcelona too. Unfortunately, these will not be for the win, but for the race fans, this will certainly be enjoyable as well. I mean, of the best of the rest talk, we look about with regards to the midfield. And leading into this Grand Prix, who do you think is starting to show signs of really just being that little bit extra, a little bit closer towards the top than the rest? Who's not quite shining as much as they probably should be?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about not shining, McLaren have to be number one on that list. I mean, they really have had a terrible start to the season. They had a little bit of a glimmer of hope last weekend in Monaco, but whether that's relative to the rest of the season, I really don't know. Monaco is just such an outlier in terms of tracks. It may have just been a bit of an anomaly for them to perform well in the race there. But I think if we're looking at best of the rest at the moment, Alpine seem to be doing really, really well this season. They've found a lot more pace in their car. They seem to be working really well with Pierre Gasly alongside Esteban Ocon. Ocon, of course, taking that third place in Monaco. Certainly brilliant for them. And the Alpine boss is talking a big talk about the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend, saying that don't count Alpine out. They should also be quite competitive.
So Alpine, of course, with Ocon finishing on the podium, the first podium for Alpine this season in Monaco. Now, Monaco is, obviously, as you said, it's a bit of an outlier, so it's not necessarily a true reflection of all these different cars. But is this going to spur them on, as you say, for this weekend? I think we probably are in agreement to say Alpine of the best of the rest when you take away the top four teams, being Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Aston Martin. You take those away, I do think Alpine is firmly there next as the next best team on the grid. And do you think they can try and maybe even compete a little more with the likes of maybe even Mercedes or Ferrari? And Aston Martin, of course, because Lance
I
Stroll
mean,
is.
if Mercedes and Ferrari can't pull up their socks, I think they will be getting that Alpine just getting a little bit feisty and in the mix there. Uh, as you said though, with Lance Stroll, gosh, I mean, he's really competing sometimes with the midfield, which is very disappointing. I mean, he's got a very fast race car under his seat. I mean, yeah, he really needs to just take more advantage of that. We've seen sometimes how he has a good race weekend, but with the likes of Monaco last weekend, it was just absolutely dismal for Lance.
I think the one thing I'm finding with Lance Stroll this season, because we keep talking about Aston Martin being the one team that seems to be challenging Red Bull. It's not necessarily Aston Martin, it's Alonso and
It's
Aston Martin,
Alonso.
because
I
Lance
mean,
Stroll is,
Alonso's
as you
the number
say, yeah,
one point scorer.
yeah,
Alonso's the number one point scorer in Alpine, sorry, in Aston Martin. He's the only one that scored all of those points so far. And if Lance isn't able to score points at all, they're going to lose out on the constructors' championship to Mercedes.
yeah, and I think that's the big problem that I lean towards because Aston Martin's car definitely looks quicker than everybody else except for Red Bull. They are, for me, firmly, that car is firmly the second best car on the grid at the moment. And yet, only Fernando Alonso is managing to get that out of the car. Lance Stroll is sitting down, as you say, in 12th and 13th and 11th. And it's just, it's, how concerning is it for Aston Martin the fact that he seems to show it in practice that he's got that pace? He seems to put in those really, really quick laps, and then even in qualifying, he'll get past the first one with a quick lap, but he doesn't somehow make it into the next session because then he'll completely stuff up and ruin it. There's no consistency. Is it a huge concern for Aston Martin? Not that he's going to go anywhere, because obviously we know the
No.
family relations, but is this something that they really need to go and iron out and get done? And Lance Stroll really needs to take a look at himself in the mirror, perhaps?
I mean, certainly it should be a concern for them. I mean, Lance has been in that team for multiple years now. He's unfortunately the son of the owner of the team, so he's not going anywhere. But I mean, he should be quite comfortable in that race seat and quite comfortable in the team, knowing its structures and how it works. I mean, Fernando Alonso has come from a completely different team with a completely different car philosophy, has gotten into this new car, has learned how it works, gotten comfortable, and just absolutely hit the ground running and scored podiums throughout the season. Whereas Lance Stroll hasn't been on one.
Yeah, it's a big risk. Big talking point with regards to Aston Martin. And can Aston Martin still manage to get ahead in the points? Lance Stroll needs to be helping out his teammate Fernando Alonso. He's doing everything he can, Fernando Alonso, but Lance Stroll needs to bring up his end, and that's of course to try and stay ahead of the likes of Mercedes. And we talk about Mercedes, of course their W14 upgrades that were brought to Monaco last week, and now finally get to be seen in Spain. And I've got a little article here, and I'm just going to go and read a little bit into it. It says the big intrigue heading into Barcelona is how Mercedes upgrades to their W14 will truly perform. Initially scheduled for the cancelled Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, Mercedes debuted their bodywork, floor and front suspension in Monaco. Lewis Hamilton and George Russell both finished 4th and 5th in the Monte Carlo, although the unique nature of the street circuit meant it was difficult to assess their true performance. As Brundle put it, it's like racing in a washing machine. However, Hamilton, Russell, and team boss Toto Wolff felt there were immediate positive signs from the updated W14 and will seek to confirm its true potential this weekend. And speaking now, we were in the mix with Aston Martin and with Ferrari. On a positive note, that may be encouraging because we have never really been good here, as Mercedes boss Wolff said after the Monaco Grand Prix. But we really need to be careful. We have to go to Barcelona and collect more data. It's a new baseline. I don't expect us to be clearing Aston Martin and Ferrari there either. It is more about understanding, okay? What does this car do now, and what do we need to set it up? Mercedes currently find themselves only a point behind Aston Martin in their battle for second in the Constructors' Championship, despite appearing to have the 4th fastest car on pure pace so far in 2023. So, obviously, we're going into Barcelona this week. With those upgrades, now we get to see what's really going to happen. Do you think that they're playing it down a little bit just so that nobody brings expectations? Because they actually probably reckon it's going to be a lot better and they're going to really push a lot higher? Or do you think they're thinking, you know what, just in case it doesn't? Yeah.
I certainly think they are limiting expectations at the moment. They don't know exactly how well it is going to perform on a traditional track. They've seen how it's performed in Monaco, which, as I said earlier, is an outlier track. You can't really compare it to any other track on the calendar. But whether it will bring them a lot of performance, though, in in Spain, we'll just have to wait and see until FP1. Unfortunately, it's so hard to just try and thumbsuck whether we think they're going to be fast or not. It's whether they can get the setup right, whether everything comes together. I mean, it certainly should be faster than what they were last year in that zero side pods design. It should bring them a lot more downforce, as well as just stability and predictability for the drivers. I will be breaking down that those Mercedes upgrades very shortly. The video should be up quite soon, before the race weekend gets underway, of course, and that will explain in much more detail the upgrades that Mercedes are bringing to Spain and had brought in Monaco.
Yeah, and I think we talk about Mercedes as well now. They're quietly going about their business, though, even though they've got such huge car troubles this season, and hopefully they reckon that they might well have taken huge strides towards fixing that, as you're going to explain. But we look at Mercedes in terms of their points and their performances in all of the races, and obviously they're supposed to be challenging right near the top. They're supposed to be challenging for first place, challenging right alongside Red Bull. That's supposed to be where they are. They're not. At the end of the day, they're not. But they are very quietly going about, very consistently coming in that fourth, fifth place every race, and they seem to be. That's a team. I think that's a good example of both teammates doing enough in terms of matching similar sort of positions. Fifth and sixth, and fourth and fifth, and sixth and eighth sort of thing, getting good consistent points every race weekend. Now, is that going to help Mercedes obviously going for the rest of the season? When you compare it to the likes of Aston Martin and Ferrari, where they just seem to have such big outliers between the two drivers.
Yes, when you're getting that consistent double points haul from both of your drivers, if none of them are crashing out or retiring due to technical issues or anything, then of course you're going to be favorable for the driver, well, not drivers' championship, unfortunately, but for that constructors' championship. And we see how close they are to the Aston Martin, just 1 point away, even though Fernando Alonso has religiously finished in third place throughout the season, as well as second, of course, in Monaco.
Yeah. So Mercedes quietly going about their business to take that second place at the moment, but could Aston Martin finally take it? But we talk about the other team in that big four, and that is Ferrari. Ferrari, of course, also bringing some upgrades to hopefully improve the Sunday form.
Yes, Ferrari are supposedly pushing like hell, according to this article I'm reading at the moment. They are bringing some major upgrades for its car here in Barcelona. They seemingly are not very happy at the moment with the pace of their contender and will be wanting to make significant gains here in Spain.
Yeah, and I've also got an article here, and just got a quote here. It says, "This week we will have a better view of the race pace," said team principal Fred Vasseur, and Barcelona is more relevant, and we will have a better view of the situation. I hope that we will do a step forward in Barcelona, but it won't be the end of the development for the car. Now, of course, it won't be the development. We're still only 7 races in of a 23-1 season. So,
yes,
there's a lot of races still to come. And Carlos Sainz, of course, the other Spanish driver on the grid, racing for Ferrari, he's got a lot of pressure currently being placed on him, of course, with all the rumours with regards to Hamilton and all these other things happening. I mean, how important is it for him to perform well in Spain? Can he get that Ferrari over the line, get himself perhaps even a podium?
I think it's very important for Carlos Sainz at the moment. Of course, there are all of those rumors about Lewis Hamilton wanting to join Ferrari or in talks about joining Ferrari. And of course, that race seat is going to be taken away from Carlos Sainz. They're never going to take the race seat away from Leclerc at the moment. He is Ferrari's golden child, really. And I think really Sainz has it all to lose at the moment. So he does need to try and constantly outperform his teammate, which he did last weekend in Monaco.
Yeah, and just to end off here, of course, a little bit of news, of course, for the week, is that Mercedes are finally putting a different driver into their car this weekend, and that is the old face of
Mick Schumacher. But unfortunately, it's actually not for this weekend. It's for a Pirelli test happening after the Spanish Grand Prix, yes. But still very, very exciting to see Mick Schumacher getting into a Formula One seat, and specifically into that Mercedes seat.
Yeah, and just want to go read the article here. And the German will get his chance in the car on the second day of running after George Russell goes to work on Tuesday, and team principal Toto Wolff is excited to see what Schumacher can do. After the Grand Prix weekend, Mick will also get his first real-world taste of the W14 on the second day of the Pirelli tyre test, said Wolff. He has done a great job with the team so far, working hard back in the simulator and giving valuable input trackside. We're looking forward to him getting his first taste of on-track running this year, and sure it will help him in his role as reserve driver. This test comes after FP1 and FP2 sessions at this weekend's Spanish Grand Prix, where the teams will be given 2 additional sets of tyres featuring a new construction that are set to make their debut at the British Grand Prix later this season. So Mick is back in a Formula 1 car. Do you think they're going to use this as a little bit of a taster and a teaser to see how quick is Mick actually going around the track, just like on the side, like a little portion? They're going to think, how quick is he actually going around? Because if he's getting very close to the likes of Hamilton or whatever, we've got other teams that are running Mercedes engines. We might well just say to one of those drivers, say, hey, get out of your chair, Mick, get back in.
Well, definitely, I think there will be benchmarking Mick against George Russell, who's also taking part in that Pirelli testing. But I think as well, it's just extremely beneficial for Mick and Mercedes, as it helps them just get Mick a little bit more comfortable in their car should he ever have to take that reserve driver role, should anything happen to Lewis Hamilton or George Russell, as well as it helps him when he's in the sim. It just helps him know if the sim feels a little bit different to how the actual car is performing out on track.
So lots of things to happen this weekend, but we're looking forward to the Spanish Grand Prix, of course. Predictions, Reese, go. Top 5.
Top 5. You're always throwing me in the deep end here, Mark. I'm going to say Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, then Sergio Perez, Esteban Ocon, and Lewis Hamilton.
That's 6 drivers that you've just named, but I'm going to accept it.
There we go.
That's quite incredible. I love the top 3 prediction. Max Verstappen on top, that's pretty much standard. But Alonso in second, finally moving up. He's of course got second last weekend as well. But will he get a second place a second weekend in a row? That's also a big call. And Carlos Sainz, you're putting a Ferrari on podium, and 2 Spanish drivers in their home Grand Prix on the podium as well. So that's quite a brave call. And then not only that,
would certainly be very fun to watch.
You just put Sergio Perez in 4th, Ocon in 5th, and Hamilton you said in 6th.
I don't know, just mixing it up a little bit.
Leclerc is not in there.
He dropped out of my mind, unfortunately, when I was giving my prediction, but you never know. We could see Charles Leclerc getting in the mix for the top 6.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to make a prediction here, and I'm going to say 1st place Max Verstappen, 2nd place Fernando Alonso, 3rd place Charles Leclerc, 4th Sergio Perez, 5th Carlos Sainz, and 6th, I'm going to go with Russell, actually. I'm going to say Hamilton's in 7th. I'm going to go 6th as Russell. So that's my prediction, both of us ending with a 6th place Mercedes. Well, of course, you guys can make your predictions. Let us know in the comments as well. And be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, guys. We will be, of course, live streaming all of this weekend for the Spanish Grand Prix. From me, Mark, and from Reese, of course, you've been watching Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.